Welcome, I'm Chef Deborah from Rocca's Bakery in Greensboro, North Carolina. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make a delicious old-fashioned southern treat called red velvet cake with our delectable cream cheese icing on it. So grab your pen and paper if you want to write the recipe down as we're going through this segment. And we're going to start by sifting our dry ingredients. So we've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to put in our sifter. And as you've probably seen me do in other episodes, I like to sift directly onto a parchment paper so we can add it easier to the mixer when it's going. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of good quality dark cocoa. We use Ghirardelli and we also use Calibre cocoa in our bakery, and it really gives a nice rich dark flavor to this particular cake. So we're just going to go ahead and sift this, and while we're sifting I'll tell you about the other ingredients that we have going on in this cake. Our liquid ingredients is 1 cup of whole fat buttermilk. Please use whole fat buttermilk. Don't try and skimp on a little bit of calories in this cake. As I keep saying, we just bless all of the calories out of our pastries. We don't worry about it. If we're going to make one of these wonderful cakes from scratch, we want to be sure that we are using good quality ingredients. So we've got 1 cup of whole fat buttermilk. We've got 1.5 cups of vegetable oil or canola oil. Don't use olive oil in this. It will not bake properly, and it will give the cake a kind of an off flavor. So we do have great recipes for olive oil cakes that we do in the bakery from time to time, but we want to be sure that we use vegetable or canola oil. So we've got our dry ingredients sifted, and we're going to set that aside for just a minute. So what we've got here is we've got our 1.5 cups of oil, we've got our 1 cup of buttermilk, we have 2 cups of granulated sugar, and we're going to put this into the mixing bowl. This is called an oil-based cake, and they come together really, really fast, and you don't have to worry about creaming. So we're not going to be creaming butter and sugar together. We've got butter and cream cheese and our powdered sugar for the icing, but we're working on the cake right now. So we've got our 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We'll just add to the oil, and we have this is my secret ingredient that you can't buy in the stores, but you need to have 1 small bottle of red food coloring. So we use a special emulsion for our red velvet cake that makes it extra special. Then we've got 2 eggs, large eggs at room temperature. And then we have 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And we're going to keep that aside. That's our leavening agents. And when we get all of our ingredients incorporated together, we're going to mix these 2 and cause a chemical reaction, and you'll see it bubbling up. And then we're going to pour that mixture into the batter and fold it in, and that's what's going to make our cake raise. So we're not doing baking powder. This is just baking soda and vinegar. So we're going to go ahead and add our oil, our extracts, and our eggs right into the mixer together, and we're going to let that beat until it's incorporated on medium to medium-low speed. And then when we get ready to add our dry ingredients, we're going to add it in thirds. So we're going to put like 1/3 of the flour mixture in, and then half of the buttermilk, and then another third of the flour mixture, and then the remaining 3/4 cup of the buttermilk, and then the last part of the flour we'll fold in by hand and then add our leavening agent. So we're going to turn the mixer down on low as we add the flour. Now if you find it easier to not do it this way, like I do in the bakery, you can go ahead and sift it into a bowl and scoop it out. That's perfectly fine. We're used to doing it like that. So we're going to add half of the buttermilk, then another third of the flour. And the reason we do this is it builds structure to the cake. So you get a nice crumb on the cake, because this is an oil-based cake. And oil-based cakes, they stay moister a lot longer than the butter cakes. Our chocolate cake is an oil-based cake as well. And then we're going to add the rest of the flour. And then we're going to stop the mixer, and we're going to go ahead and incorporate the rest by hand. I like to do the last, when I'm doing cakes, The last mixing by hand, except for our chocolate cake, we don't really have to do that because it's a little bit different recipe that I developed for that one. But I would like to be sure that it doesn't overbeat the flour and actually activate too much of the gluten to make the cake tough. So if you keep beating the flour and you beat it too long, the cake will turn tough and it will develop little tunneling and little holes in your cake, and you don't want that. When you cut it, it doesn't look good. So it still tastes the same, but you know, we eat with our eyes first, and so anytime we want to have our cake look really super great, we want to make sure that we're just mixing by hand so that we get a nice smooth batter. I don't know if you can see this or not. And we want to be sure we get to the bottom of the bowl and move it up and over like this in a folding manner, like we've done you've seen me do in other shows with our whipped cream and pastry creams. Okay, I think we're good to go. Now I've already prepared, we're doing 6-inch pans today. We're doing 3 6-inches. So I've already prepared our pans with Baker's Joy and parchment rounds in the bottom so that the cakes don't stick. So we're going to go ahead and put together our 1 teaspoon of vinegar and our 1 teaspoon of soda, and you can see it bubbles up. Let me grab a spoon real quick here and make sure that it's all mixed together. And this chemical reaction, it's releasing carbon dioxide actually, and we're just going to pour that right into the batter, and it causes it to raise really nice. And this cake is a little bit denser. It's not going to be one of those super light cakes, but it's not going to be really heavy either. It's going to be kind of in between. And so we're just folding that leavening mixture into the batter. And then we're going to be ready to just put it in our pans in a 350-degree oven. And this cake takes a little bit long to bake, so we're going to look at checking the cakes probably in about 25 minutes. So we'll get this scooped up into the pans that we've got here. So you see this cake just comes together so quick, and it makes great cupcakes too. So you can use these in regular size cupcake liners or jumbo. We use jumbo cupcakes in the bakery because everything we do is super size. Our customers like that. So do our kids, our little customers, our little people customers. And so this should give us just enough for 3 layers on our 6-inch cake. Now you can half this recipe really easy, so don't be afraid to half it if you're not looking at making a lot of cupcakes, or you just want maybe a 2-layer 6-inch. Half a recipe would probably do you just fine, especially if you're this size cake is great for like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 people. We have our little 4-inch cakes that we call our smash cakes for our little baby cakes. For our little babies who are celebrating their 1-year birthday. We sell a lot of them at Valentine's Day in heart shapes, our little 4 inches for I love you cakes. So we can do all kinds of fun stuff with cakes in different shapes. So we've got these in our pan. We're going to put them in our 350-degree oven, start checking at 25 minutes with a cake tester. When it comes out clean, it's ready to put on your cooling rack. So we'll see you in just a few minutes. So while our red velvet cakes are baking, we're going to go ahead and make our cream cheese buttercream. So I've got 4 cups of powdered sugar. We've got 8 ounces or 1 block of full-fat cream cheese, and we have 2 sticks of good butter. I think this is Land O'Lakes butter, but a nice good butter. Do not use margarine. It will not make good buttercream for you. I've got a teaspoon of vanilla, and I have a little bit of milk here just in case I need to thin it out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and put the icing sugar into the mixer bowl. And remember, when we start mixing with powdered sugar, we want to start it on slow because it is going to spray everywhere. And I think I've told you in other episodes, I've had powdered sugar everywhere on myself and on the counter and in my hair, on my hat when I wear in the bakery. I'm wearing a hat, of course. So we can just go ahead and just put all of this. I'm going to cut this up into little chunks here just to make it easier to emulsify. Now if you want to, you can cream the butter and the cream cheese together if you want. It just makes it easier for cleanup. You can see it popping out. So, there we go. I think we're pretty safe. We still got a little bit everywhere, but You know, that's what this is for, a bench scraper to clean up your mess, and nobody will ever know that you made a mess on your counter. So we want to whip this pretty good. We're going to turn this on medium high. You can hear it slapping against the sides of the bowl. That's what you want to hear, because we want to aerate and we want to beat air into this icing. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the bowl down here. Let me lower the... Now it does feel just a tad stiff to me. You can see it's pretty stiff, so I'm going to add we're going to start with a teaspoon of milk, because when you're working with this kind of icing, we want to add just a little bit at a time. So we're going to just do a teaspoon at a time, and then we'll whip it again. Let's check it again and see what it looks like here. And one of the things I like to do with these kind of, what we call them, well, this is a cream cheese icing, but it would also be with an American buttercream, which is the butter and the vanilla and the powdered sugar, which is a lot sweeter than an Italian buttercream, which is what we use almost exclusively in the bakery, unless we have a customer request American buttercream or cream cheese. It's not as sweet, but it's like silk in your mouth, and it's super beautiful and wonderful. But that does take about 25 minutes, and you do have to make a sugar syrup and add it with whipped whites and things, and then lots of butter. I'm going to taste this real quick just to see how sweet it is. We might need to add a little bit of cream cheese. I think I'd actually use about a cup more of powdered sugar. And that is one of the nice things about this icing, is that you can adjust it to your special taste. And so we're going to stop and we're going to go get some more powdered sugar, and we'll be right back. So I've cleaned up my messy counter a little bit, and we're going to add a little bit of powdered sugar, probably about a half a cup at a time, just until I get the consistency I want. I think I'd like it just a tad sweeter, and I'm not one for a lot of icing. When I was growing up, my mother didn't like icing or buttercream, anything on her cupcakes, so we grew up with no icing on our cupcakes. When we would come home from school, she'd have her chocolate cupcakes, which she was famous for. So we're going to turn this on high for a couple of minutes and beat it until it's nice and aerated. And as soon as it's done to the right consistency, we'll be back. So this is our buttercream after it's been whipped for about 5 to 6 minutes. You can see how beautifully fluffy it is. I want to be sure that as long as I'm teaching you how to do this or showing you how to do it, that we talk about creaming your buttercreams long enough, especially if you're looking at American buttercream and cream cheese buttercream, not Italian or Swiss or French buttercreams. Those are meringue based, so we're not talking about those. We're talking about American or cream cheese. It is important that you beat it long enough. With a paddle, you don't need a whip on your mixer, but a paddle attachment until it gets aerated enough. So you don't want this heavy, gluey frosting or buttercream on your cake. See, it's beautifully whipped and light, and you can pipe with it and it'll hold its shape. So that's what we're going to be looking at. The cakes are still in the oven. We're going to pull them out when they're done. They've got about 6 more minutes. We'll let them cool, and then we'll come back and we'll ice our cakes. So we'll see you then. So we're back with our red velvet cake and our cream cheese frosting that we made earlier. I have put some frosting into a piping bag with a star tip. Again, you can use use a closed star tip, you can use a rose petal tip if you want to, whatever design you want to make on your cake, it's yours to do. So I've trimmed our cake a little bit to get any of the more baked, harder edges off. And we put a little bit of buttercream on the bottom of the cake plate so that we have a solid base and it sticks to the cake plate and it doesn't move. And so we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to pile up our delicious cream cheese frosting in the center, and we're going to spread it out, push it to the edges. Now if you're afraid, if you're new to icing cakes and you don't want to get any frosting or buttercream on your cake board, you can take some parchment paper or wax paper and put it around and stick it right just a little bit under the cake, and it'll protect your cake plate for you so you don't have anything to clean up. So we're just going to go ahead and continue layering our cake, and this is going to be a 3-layer cake. Again, the 6-inch cake will feed, maybe 4 people. It's a nice little cake to have if you're just having another couple over to your house for dessert and dinner. It's not, you don't have a lot of leftovers. This is going to be the top of our cake now, so we'll just continue to push the buttercream around. Then we're going to go ahead and start icing the sides. So we're just going to push some buttercream on the sides of this cake. Now the red velvet cake you can make fancy, or you can make kind of rustic, whatever you're in the mood to do at the time that you're icing your cake. We're probably going to have enough buttercream to do a full coverage. One of the popular types of cake finishes now is the semi-naked cake, where you just put a very thin layer of buttercream on the cake. So you want to, as you can see, this frosting is pretty soft. Once we get this initial coat on, we're going to stick it in the cooler and let it harden up a little bit, because that's one thing about cream cheese, is that it is very, very soft, and it's hard to do too tall of a cake with the cream cheese buttercream because it's super soft. And if you add more powdered sugar to make it stiff, then the flavor of the cream cheese buttercream is going to be a little off. It's going to be too sweet. So you just keep that in mind. In the bakery, we do the cream cheese buttercream by order. If we have red velvet cake on the case for our cake of the day, we will probably do an Italian buttercream, just because that is a little bit more stable and it's not temperature sensitive like the cream cheese icing is. So if you're using cream cheese icing, because of the cream cheese, we do need to make sure that it stays in the cooler, and you can probably leave it on the counter for up to an hour, hour and a half, and then you really want to keep it back in the cooler, just because you don't want it to spoil and make anybody sick. So I think we're going to have to let this sit up for just a minute here so I can finish it, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So we're back after our cake has been cooling for a while, because the cream cheese buttercream is very soft. So when you put your crumb coat or your initial coat of icing on it, put it in the refrigerator for 20-30 minutes to let it harden up. Otherwise the layers can slide off of each other a little bit. So the cream cheese icing is a little bit temperamental to work with. So what we're going to do is we got our base coat on, and I put another layer on, and so it's got a little bit of a rough finish, but we're going to do a rough final finish on it. So I saved some what we call cake trash when I trim the tops of the cakes off, and I've crumbled it up, and we're going to use that to decorate the cake today along with our buttercream. So I'm just going to take my offset spatula, and I'm just going to hold it onto the cake, not pressing in, but just very lightly touching the cake, and we're going to create a ringed effect on the cake. And so we're just going to spin the cake plate on our cake stand so that we get a nice rimmed effect. And that way you don't make yourself crazy trying to create a super ultra finish on a smooth finish on it. So we're going to do the same thing with the top. So we're going to have, and so you just go a little bit closer into the center like that, and finish up with a little peak. And then we're going to take some cake crumbs, and we're going to press some cake crumbs on the bottom to give a little bit of color onto the plate. Now if you don't want to do this, the finish and how you do your cake is completely up to you. It's your cake and it's your choice. Again, if you put a little, and I'm going to leave it just like it is because I like the way that looks around the bottom. But I'm going to put a little bit of borders on the top with our buttercream, so you can see how to give an alternate finish. Let me clean up a little bit here. So one thing, when I'm decorating cakes, I like to keep a clean surface. I usually have 2 or 3 pieces of parchment paper around me, because you don't want to get cake crumbs in any other buttercream that you're using. So I'm pretty fussy about that in the bakery when I'm working with cakes and cake crumbs. So here I'm going to do just little dollops like this on the top, because the top of this cake is so small, you really don't have an opportunity to do anything big on the top. So you don't want the top of the decoration to overpower the cake. You just want it to be a little bit of an accent like that. And then take a little bit of the cake crumbs and put it in the center. And maybe just sprinkle it over the top like this. It looks like little mountain peaks of red velvet. Let's just check to see what we got here, and it looks good. So this is our red velvet cake. This is Chef Deborah from Rocca's Bakery in Greensboro, North Carolina. Signing off for you today. Please visit us on our website at roccasbakery.com, at the Piedmont Triad Farmers Market in Greensboro, North Carolina, every weekend starting in May from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you want to order something special that you don't see on our online store, please call me directly. Our number is on the website. Until next time, signing off, this is Chef Deborah.